I believe that you were actually referring to largely erroneous stereotype of Argentina,
I never
specifically, not
said the
just
word
South America.
Argentina. I never
We
said
all
the
know
word
what you
Argentina.
mean. You're an American. We all know what the cultural perception
No,
of
actually, when
You're an American. We all know what you really meant, Matt Binder. You were talking about them. Or as we all know who's truly behind the schemes, the Argentinians. BadEmpanada had a debate with Matt Binder over the Third Reich, over Nazis. I haven't been given a lot of details about this debate, just that it was spicy, and it specifically had to do with comments Matt Binder made about Nazis in Latin America after the fallout of the shooting, where somebody who's Latin American ended up shooting, doing a mass shooting in the United States while also having fascist tattoos, you know, swastikas, SS symbols. That's all the background I have, but I heard that it was extremely spicy, and knowing that there's a spicy debate, I found that it's usually better to know less than more, so you guys can have more of a genuine reaction. Some of the stuff is entertaining, and I watch a lot of the more spicy debates off stream. Sometimes I don't even watch it on stream, but it's usually better when I watch it on stream for first time. So let's check it out. That's all the context I have. So let's see how it goes. Also, I think I might be one of the first content creators on the platform, definitely here on Twitch, to have caught wind of this. So hopefully it's good content. Oh, I know all the Loner Box Raiders are going to love this, because I know Loner Box and BadEmpanada are great friends.
All right, here we go. I'm live on my channel. I know BadEmpanada's live on his channel. Hey, are you there?
Yes, indeed.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's nice to talk with you. I've heard some about you over the years, and it's interesting to finally get a chance to talk. Weird, I guess, series of events that brought us here, but here we are.
Yeah, it's okay. I have no idea who you are.
That's fine.
I'm just interested in using you as a proxy to make a video to talk about a topic so that I don't have to make it on my main channel.
That's cool. I will say it's a bit weird you're not on your main channel, because you had promoted.
I don't stream on my main channel.
Yeah, I get it, but you had told me that you have 10 times the viewers that I have. But
yeah, you get like 1,000 views per video.
Well, because they're just live streams. And no, I don't.
Okay.
I get like, you could check it out right now. It's like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 views.
You stream on like Majority Report or something?
No, I don't. I stream on my own channel. I got like 29,000 subscribers, which obviously is much less than your main channel. But
Okay.
you're.
Well, I'm glad we've got an.
Oh, can I just say, there's nothing I hate more than like a dick measuring contest on the internet about who has a bigger audience. There's a million reasons why somebody might have a bigger audience than somebody else. Might be because you make much better content than the person. Might be because you're much smarter than the person. Could also be that you just talk about more popular topics. Somebody could be extremely intelligent, but they concentrate on the struggle of the people of Western Sahara. So they're playing to like an audience of like 2 people in the entire world. So even though they're extremely intelligent, they know what they're doing, they're highly produced, good videos, if they're not talking about an issue that is like the most entertaining or like or the most people care about, then it could mean that you're not doing as well. It could also be you not knowing your way around the YouTube search algorithm, you not making the best thumbnails. It could be you using keywords in your YouTube videos that make you get stunted in the YouTube search algorithm. It might be that you're trying to transfer an audience from Twitter to YouTube, which is extremely difficult. It could be any number of factors. Either way, all of it's secondary to the actual conversation. But it does usually mean that tensions are flaring, and we haven't even started yet.
The important details.
Right. Well, you also didn't want to go on video, which was weird.
I'm on video on my channel. I just don't want to set it up.
All right. Also,
the tensions are flaring. By the way, I don't even really remember my quote unquote history with BadEmpanada. I remember once he called me like a fascist because I have American flag in my background because I'm American and I love my country, and his argument is America's done all these bad things, so therefore for you to love your country and you to be a patriot, that makes you a fascist. And so I showed images of like others in the United States who have flown flags before, like Martin Luther King Jr. and others. Are these people fascists? And it basically rolled into a larger conversation that went nowhere. That's the only interaction that I vaguely remember about BadEmpanada. I knew that once we maybe were going to debate, but then it fell through because he didn't want to debate the specifics of what I was interested in debating. He wanted to debate something else. Nothing really worth mentioning. All I know is that he does not like me very much. He does not like me very much. And he doesn't like that I don't concentrate on the issues that he wants me to concentrate on.
I just want to do a screen share really quick.
I also know that he's had problems with Loaderbugs, Vosh, and just about everybody. He has problems with just about everybody.
I mean, do you usually show your the people that give you the time of day such wonderful respect as to not even put their name in the title or call them Discount Sam Cedar? Very weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah. You don't matter, dude. I'm sorry. Your name doesn't bring in viewers.
All right, that's fine. But you know, usually
you can use a derogatory name for me if you want.
Your whole thing of not going live on video was you don't care about the whole YouTube debate viewer thing, and then you're telling me that you put
no, I don't go live on
Sam Cedar. You put Discount Sam Cedar. You put Discount Sam Cedar for
completely irrelevant. My stream is a thing that I do like 4 times a month when I want to make some extra money. Right? It's not something that's serious. So I never set up video with guests because I have a guest once every 6 months.
That's cool.
Let's
do this.
Dude, they do not like each other, man. The fact they've spent like 2.5 minutes on this. The fact they're spending 2.5 minutes on comparing view counts. Why are you streaming on your second channel, not your main channel? Tell me about the cameras. Your title says I'm Discount Sam Cedar. Why aren't you using my real name? Like they already do not like each other. The tensions are already flaring. This is not going to be a cordial conversation.
Discount Sam Cedar. Cool. Let's do it. And you are
no problem.
BadEmpanada. Cool. Okay.
Okay. That's Enya. That's a different letter entirely. It's N. Empanada. Anyway, we can talk about the actual topic that we wanted to talk about, which is just interested in your perception of the whole Nazi Argentina thing.
Okay. We should pretty much let people know where this all started, right?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Sure. So
I believe you posted a tweet.
Sure.
Trying to explain the Mexican American who killed like 8 people in a mass shooting covered in Nazi tattoos with like a History Channel article about Nazis in South America.
No, that's actually not exactly what it was, but yeah.
Okay, so I do know the general premise of the conversation. Okay, I'm tuned in.
Basically, it was the discourse around whether people with Latino or Hispanic names, because the right wing was pushing this whole idea that this Mexican American could not possibly be a Nazi because of their name. They were really focusing on the fact that they
his name.
Well, his name and also the color of his skin, his background being from a Hispanic family and having a Latino origin. So they were basically saying there was an article from Axios, The Rise of White Nationalist Hispanics. And Mike Solana, who's this like right-wing VC, shared it and was sort of poo-pooing the idea that this could be a thing. White nationalist Hispanics, no way. So as a play on...
If anything, I would think in the age of the internet, I'm surprised that there aren't more people from minority communities in these extremist groups. I understand why there isn't basically any, like from a basic point of view, because these groups hate these groups hate them. Being a black person as a member of the Klan obviously doesn't make much sense. But if you're extremely socially isolated, these extremist groups are going to make a beck and call to you, have an open arms to you. Definitely if they're desperate for membership or ears or anybody that'll listen to their cause. And so if you're socially isolated on the internet, which this person seemed to be, and you combine a few other factors to make them radicalized, it isn't insane to imagine that you could have members of minority groups joining white nationalist, white supremacist organizations, or getting captured by their ideology. Because I don't even know if he's part of any official organization. He's part of but he does have the ideological tint of fascism. So there's not even anybody at the door necessarily checking him into any organization. But that doesn't mean he can't buy into the tropes, buy into the narratives, whether they be anti-Semitic or otherwise.
Joke of, hey, open a history book. I literally found one of the first things on this was from a History Channel page. And so I made a joke about how you could even just look at it there. And the title of this article is How South America Became a Nazi Haven. And, it's basically a rundown of, some very basic stuff.
Yeah, indeed. It's referring to a stereotype, like a very common stereotype that's used for two purposes. One is to legitimize American imperialism against like the center left in Argentina. And two is to deflect from America being itself a post-war Nazi haven.
No, I'm not doing that.
And that's why everyone got angry at you.
No, that's why strictly Argentinians got angry at me because
that's why they got angry at you.
Yes,
you know why?
yes,
because these people have never heard of this shit in their entire lives.
That's a problem. That's a problem. Then that's a real problem. That's a real problem.
What I'm saying is
that's a real problem.
It's not a problem. They haven't heard of your perspective.
Wait, so they're complaining about an argument that Matt Binder never made? Matt Binder never said, oh, I didn't want to talk about Operation Paperclip. And so instead of talking about Operation Paperclip, instead, we're not going to talk about the recruiting of Nazi scientists, and we're going to talk about the Nazis in Latin America. He never made that argument. He never brought that up. He was simply showing that it is possible for somebody to be of South American descent and also be a Nazi. That was the only purpose he linked the article. So why do they have their panties in a twist? I don't understand where the outrage is. It seems like if Matt Binder said, Operation Paperclip, what about Argentinian Nazis? What about Brazilian Nazis? What about Hitler's guys who fled to South America? Then it would be like, okay, that seems like a diversion, but that's not why he brought it up.
Perception of them, which come from a fucking musical.
No, I don't have any perception of them from a musical.
No,
I have a perception.
You do. You absolutely do. You're an American. You have cultural. Yes, your perceptions of things you don't know much about comes like everyone else comes through cultural osmosis. You don't really know much about certain things, and you have these sort of stereotypical ideas of what they're like.
You know nothing about me. Why?
I know about you're a generic American. You don't know how to pronounce empanada.
Okay.
That's about all I need to know.
Okay, so I missed.
The thing is about BadEmpanada, and some of it's coming back to me, is he makes very large assumptions based off of people's national identity or the very few facts they know about them. He'll assume what they believe. He'll assume what their backgrounds are. He'll make these assumptions and then make conclusions off them without checking with that person. A great example of this would be a while ago, he was saying that I was a foreign policy advisor for a state senator running for office, right? Now, that doesn't really make much sense. And he would even say this on Twitter. Why would somebody running for state senate even need a foreign policy advisor? If he would have dug two more digs into the ground, he would have found out that they were a state senator running for Congress. And that's the problem with BadEmpanada. It's a very surface level of analysis. Definitely when he's talking about other people. In fact, I've never necessarily even seen him do that much when it comes to the actual politics of an issue. I've only ever seen that when he's making conclusions about those around him that he doesn't like very much. So I think a lot of it is very cynical, where he doesn't like this person. He thinks they're a scumbag because they politically disagree with him. And so he needs to find other ways to get at them. And so make jumps based off their national identity, jumps in logic, or leaps in faith and logic in order to make conclusions about what they've been engaged in, what type of behavior they've engaged in, or what they're involved in. He makes assumptions a lot about people.
It's pronounced empanada. Like, give me a break, buddy.
Would you like me to provide you some academic articles about this exact stereotype and how it came to be? I can do it right now.
It's like basic history. Like it's basic history.
It's basic history. What about is basic history?
What do you mean that I mean, obviously
that there's Nazis in South America, and I assume that we are getting towards the idea that a lot of Nazi leadership did flee into South America. That Nazi leadership did do that. I don't know the exact percentage of how much they went to South America, but that did happen. Didn't they catch like Joseph Mengele in Argentina? I'm pretty sure I saw a movie about that. Joseph Mengele was caught in Argentina.
Obviously, there are white supremacists and neo-Nazis and far right-wing extremists all over the world. All over the world.
It was in Brazil? Okay, well, still South America. You get the idea.
Yeah, what does this American one have to do with Argentina, though?
Oh, I was bringing up the fact that, yeah, there is a such thing as white supremacist Latinos and Hispanics, because that was the premise of the article that I was replying to. That's it. Anything
It wouldn't really make
anything
much
more?
sense because
Why wouldn't it?
For one, Nazis who moved to, let's say, South America, they're not Latinos or Hispanics.
Sure, of course not.
Okay.
But you're acting like they didn't also
Two,
decide.
Number one, many of them would still have would engage with local culture. Many of their descendants, just like many of the descendants from a lot of the Confederate settlements that were located in South America, would then intertwine with locals, and then they would maybe not be 100% Germanic, whatever, white anymore. But this is all secondary. This is all pointless to squabble over. None of this is the point that Matt Binder was making. His only point is that South Americans can be Nazis. South Americans can be fascists. And the fact that this person is of South American descent does not undermine that fact. Whether you count them in the Nazis that fled from Germany, or some of those who are South American and have just harbored these personal fascistic beliefs. Like, that happens.
We're talking about
hold on.
We're talking about white people and brown people.
Hold on.
The guy who did this in the US was certainly not white or Aryan or whatever the fuck you want to call it, like the Nazis did. So
Dude.
referring to that in the first place doesn't really make much sense, does it?
Well, no, it makes plenty of sense, because you're under the impression that, like, the neo-Nazis that, the Nazis that left Nazi Germany after the war or during the war and moved to South America, they didn't intertwine and mingle with the people there and have families of people there or share their ideology at the very least with people there. It's not like they just, what?
Did they share them with this guy?
I didn't say this guy. Dude, you're bringing in something completely different because you seem to have misread.
It seems to me like you're bringing in something completely different and irrelevant to the question at hand.
The question at hand?
Well, it's a Mexican mass shooter in the USA.
Yes, and that's completely on the United States of America and its gun culture and its own neo-Nazi problem. But then there was a secondary discussion surrounding this whole thing about whether Latinos and Hispanic people can be white supremacist. And I was
when Americans use the term Latino and Hispanics, etc., what they mean is brown people. They don't mean like blonde hair, blue-eyed neo-Nazis. They mean brown people.
I mean, Latinos, I don't think you need to necessarily be brown to be a Latino, but I would assume that, like, the majority of what is conceptualized as the Latino community is browner than, say, the average white American, or what the American perception of white is.
And I think you know that, or at least, subconsciously you should know that. So
wait,
it doesn't really make much sense to refer to South America. When they're saying that, they're not specifically referring to the fact that he's a Spanish speaker or whatever, or that his parents were from a Spanish-speaking country or from Latin America. They're referring to the guy's perceived race.
Right, and I'm telling you that they assumed that because he was a brown person with a background, his family came from south of the American border, that he could not possibly be a white supremacist. So I was simply using a historical fact to show how there's actually a long history of, this ideology being welcomed or accepted throughout the world, period, but specifically in this conversation regarding the surrounding conversation around what we were just talking about in South America.
Shiro, thank you so much for the tier 1 and being sub for 8 months. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. This is such a weird conversation. It feels like BadEmpanada doesn't have much to complain about, or he was ready for a totally different conversation. And Matt Binder isn't interested in having a conversation about like diverging or like not talking about Operation Paperclip. He simply was just trying to get across the point that people from South America can be fascists, that they can be Nazis, and just because they aren't of the demographic background of the typical Nazi doesn't mean they can't be one, or that ideology hasn't whittled its way into South America through other means. It just feels like I don't know, man. It feels like BadEmpanada is like grasping at straws already at the gate. At DylanBurnsLIVE, according to Paul Manning, eventually over 10,000 former German military made it to South America along escape routes of ODESSA and Deutsch. Brazil took in 1,500 to 2,000 war criminals, while between 500 to 1,000 settled in Chile. However, by far the largest number, as many as 5,000, relocated to Argentina. I don't know about the specific numbers. I'll be gullible and accept your numbers at face value. But I mean, I'm not a big studier of German rat lines after the war, but I am pretty familiar with stories of Germans getting caught in South America for having been involved in the Holocaust.
I believe that you were actually referring to largely erroneous stereotype of Argentina specifically.
I never
not
said the
just
word
South
Argentina.
America.
I never said
We
the
all know
word
what you
Argentina.
mean. You're an American. We all know what the cultural perception
No,
of
actually, when
You're an American. We all know what you really meant, Matt Binder. You were talking about them. Or as we all know who's truly behind the schemes, the Argentinians.
when I think of right-wing South American countries, the first country I think
right wing,
not
Nazi, right wing.
when I think of far right-wing, white supremacist, neo-Nazi sort of subcultures going on in South America and spreading there, the first place I would think of actually, simply because of modern times, is actually Brazil. But you know, you're welcome to assume I would think Argentina, I guess, for some reason. Again, I never said
Some
Argentina.
reason, for example, the very long-standing stereotype, specifically in Americans.
He never even brought up Argentina. In this conversation, he didn't bring up Argentina once. Now he's whining about a country Matt Binder hasn't brought up. What's the purpose of this conversation? Is BadEmpanada does he just need to complain to people?
Society.
But
That
dude, you're
Argentina
projecting all
is
sorts of things.
singularly unique. Yeah, you retweeted people saying this. You literally
I'm thinking of Joseph Mengele. I think it was Adolf Eichmann, actually, who got captured in South America. I think it was Eichmann, not Mengele. Mengele was the experiment guy, but no, it was Eichmann that was caught in Brazil, I believe.
retweeted people saying this as well.
I didn't retweet anyone saying anything.
Both? Oh, that's bad, man. That's bad rep for Brazil, man. Okay, so it wasn't... Okay, so Joseph Mengele was caught in Brazil. Adolf Eichmann was caught in Argentina. Either way, South America.
Only people
Yeah, it was Argentina. Okay, got you.
responded to were Argentinians who came at me to try to say that there's no such thing as racism in their country and the Nazis never went there, period. And only in my replies to them did I ever bring up the country Argentina, and you're welcome to look through that because it's all right there and all your viewers can. This whole conversation is about you, BadEmpanada, having a projection of something that didn't happen onto me. You stereotyped.
Projection.
I mean, that's what happened, buddy. I don't know what to tell you.
Projection.
Whatever you're going to bring up.
Mengele was not caught. He drowned in a lake on vacation. Man. So it is all the way back to Argentina and Adolf Eichmann being caught. Okay, so who was talking about Mengele getting caught in Brazil? I should never trust my chat. I'll never trust my chat again.
When you brought up Nazis in South America and you referred to a History Channel article, this is the History Channel, by the way. The History Channel is notorious for making documentaries where they claim to have found Adolf Hitler alive in Argentina. They've made 4 of those. So
they do make a lot of mockumentaries.
You cite a History Channel article specifically about Nazis, actual post-war Nazis escaping to South America. And we all know that when you say that, you're mostly referring to Argentina because that's where the stereotype is. But
he could have just been referring generally to South America. I mean, I guess Argentina would be under that umbrella, but he didn't work to specify or single out Argentina. And I mean, is it not true that Nazis fled to South America after the war? This is I mean, again, I don't know the issue that deeply, but I know that they were caught there. And if they were caught there, it's not that hard to figure out that they fled there.
I wasn't referring to anywhere.
You deflect that now by referring to Bolsonaro, a contemporary Trump-inspired leader.
Yeah,
is that right?
Because my point.
So you were citing a History Channel article to refer to Bolsonaro when the History Channel article was talking about post-war
That's
Nazi
not what
escapees.
I said, dude. Do you have a habit of talking in circles like this? Because it's not what I said at all. Number one, I said the use of the History Channel was part of the meme of open a history book. You could read it in my tweet. I even reference it. So that's why I specifically use the History Channel.
So you say open a history book and you use the
Because on Twitter, everyone's snarky.
So you
just like
intentionally
snarky,
said
man.
something that that is incorrect.
I think you're up to.
Yeah, what did he say that was incorrect?
We're in a right-winger.
So you're saying that there were no Nazis that left Germany and found a safe haven in South America?
That's not what you believe. That's not what you believe.
Dude, I'm telling you what I believe right now, and you can't accept it because you had your whole thing, your whole little
Simple
stream,
question for you, my friend.
your whole little stream was set up to tackle me on something I never said because you, BadEmpanada, misread the entire tweet, and everyone in the replies when you came at me on Twitter were telling you, dude, you misread it. As long as half of Argentinian Twitter that was coming after me, everyone was telling you guys I never said Argentina in any single tweet until I was replying. How is that a scapegoat?
Because you're an American. You're an American referring to a very specific U.S. construction.
This is the problem with BadEmpanada, is if he falls on every front, he'll just always fall back upon, you're a Yankee, you're this national identity, you're that national identity, therefore this is what you really meant, because this is what Americans always mean, you dirty Yankoid. That's always where the BadEmpanada conversation goes to. If you corner him enough, or he runs out of things to say, if there's no more substantive critiques I can make out of the words that Matt Binder actually said, now I'm going to try to make an substantive critique of the words Matt Binder didn't say, but might have said in a different timeline, in a space-time continuum. It's, in an alternative, like Mr. Magneto universe.
By the way, it was constructed before the war was even over. Mythology used to legitimize imperialism, specifically this idea of South America being this sort of singular Nazi haven, which is why History Channel articles
No
like
way.
that.
I don't believe South America is ever. United States of America, baby, #1 in bringing Nazis from Nazi Germany. And not only were they the #1 in bringing them, #1 in turning a blind eye or helping other countries also do the same. I mean, the United States of America knew all about the rat lines. That's nothing new, man.
They didn't just know about them; they wanted them.
In some instances, they helped set them up. No doubt
you
about
have
it.
a bunch of people. You have a bunch of people angry at you for spreading this stereotype. This stereotype, by the way,
It's not a stereotype. If it's okay. It's true that Nazis fled to South America after the war and they were caught there, and then their catching of them, like Adolf Eichmann, was highly publicized, with him being deported back to Israel. That's just true. I mean, you could say that maybe it's overemphasized or it's exaggerated, and that becomes a stereotype. That's fair enough. I'm sure Argentinians get annoyed at that image of themselves being portrayed, but that image exists for a reason. That happened. It's not like, only a dozen went there. Thousands upon thousands of Nazis fled into South America. And we're not just talking about like run-of-the-mill, a German officer here, a German officer there. We're talking high-ranking Nazis who were highly involved in the mass murder of Jews. Operation Paperclip doesn't change that. The Soviets hiring Nazi generals for the German Red Army to train them and get them ready, and them getting German scientists doesn't change that. Nobody taking German scientists, German military staff, having German generals being involved in their administrative rules or whatever, anywhere. None of that changes the fact that, yes, Nazis did flee to South America. And all of this is besides the point that, again, he's arguing against the position that Matt Binder never even put forward, and he's assuming he put forward based upon the fact that he's American. That's it. It's just, he's American, so you can't talk about South American Nazis. That's what this feels like.
Specifically weaponized against, center-left anti-neoliberal politicians in Argentina still today.
I can talk about
I'm sorry if I'm going to hold my judgment back of Matt Binder bringing this up in order to undermine the center left in South America, that he was bringing up Nazis that fled to South America after World War II in order to undermine the South American left. Was it that? Or can we look at the context of the conversation and see that he was countering a claim that somebody who is of South American descent cannot be a Nazi?
Why can't they be angry about that exactly?
If they want to be angry about that, that's really weird to me.
You said to
that's
me, I
really
believe
weird
that
to me.
it was wrong for me to say that this idea that you're spreading is imperialism. Apparently, how is that wrong for me to say that?
How is that imperialism for me to just simply state a historical fact?
Well,
that
for one,
this idea
of there being a special Nazi haven in Argentina comes from before the war ended. It comes directly from the US government. They literally released a book all around the world warning of the threat of the Fourth Reich in Argentina called the Blue Book.
Right.
And from that spawned the musical Evita, which basically just spread that idea even more. And that's how Americans got this whole History Channel-esque idea of Argentina
most
being
Americans
a singular
have,
Nazi haven.
most Americans.
And it's imperialism for Matt Binder to have said the thing he never said about Argentina, but by him bringing up the fact that Nazis did flee to South America. Didn't even say Argentina specifically. He's playing into the American conceived, created narrative about Nazis being in Argentina, the country he never mentioned. This is so, he's falling over himself to try to craft a narrative to trap Matt Binder in. It's just not working.
And this
have
is an
no
idea
idea about any of this. Most Americans, as you can see,
If you
from
ask
the
any American, what do you know about Argentina? There's like a 50-50 chance they'll tell you nothing or Nazis.
they'll tell
That's all they
you
know.
they'll tell you Messi, baby, and the Argentinian World Cup soccer team. What are you talking
this
about?
is the
man?
sort of thing that it's weaponized. It's very easy to weaponize too. You think this idea is not weaponized? You think people don't say to like anyone who calls himself
I'll
a
tell you,
terrorist,
the
"Oh, you're a
most-
Nazi."
The most I've heard about Argentina, quite frankly, has been from other South Americans who have had bad experiences with Argentina. That's honestly the most I hear about Argentina. United States of America doesn't know Argentina outside, again, of their World Cup soccer team. Trust me, no one here talks about Evita or any of that.
There's certainly more than enough cultural osmosis for Americans to know about this Nazi Argentina stereotype, which is probably why all of your followers, just with that taken for granted ideas that they receive from this cultural osmosis, got very angry at me, refuting that idea.
But dude, are you claiming that you can't talk about the fact that there were indeed Nazis that escaped to Argentina? Is that what you're claiming?
Let me give you a very apt analogy here. Let's imagine an African-American politician in the USA is corrupt.
Sure.
Do you think it, and someone's like, Africans can't be corrupt? That doesn't make any sense. And you decide to respond to that by posting like the Freedom Institute's graph of corruption with African countries at the top. Do you think that would be like a thing to do that makes any sense at all and that isn't just reinforcing damaging stereotypes about other countries?
But that's not what happened at all. Let's pose this another way. Do you talk about Ukraine at all?
Yeah.
You do. And what do you think about what's going on with the Ukraine? With Ukraine?
Literally a complete 100% topic change.
Well, no, because I'm.
He's talking about Argentina, a country Matt Binder never even brought up. This is the topic change. Okay, whatever.
No, it's not, because it's the same thing you just did. You just brought up African American president.
No,
of the United
I'm
States.
making an analogy.
And I'm making an analogy
to what you did.
I'm making an analogy.
Right?
I'm making an
What
analogy as well. You talk about Ukraine, right?
What you did is take someone who is a Latin American, completely irrelevant European or Africa or anything here.
Can't talk about Ukraine. He can talk about this like scenario of the idea of somebody saying black people can't be corrupt. Totally not a topic change. Him bringing it over on the Nazi issue, on the stereotype about Nazis over to Ukraine, very easy to see where this connection is going to be made. That's not allowed though. That's too much of a topic change. He's got to shut it down. He just got to shut it down.
What you did is take someone who is a Latin American descended person in the US who did something awful, and to explain that the fact that a Latin American person can have his ideology, you point to people in South America. I'm wondering how this would be different to that scenario that I just outlined.
No, because that's not what it was, man. The individual is completely like, maybe, I don't know, maybe because you're from Australia, right? Maybe
Africans can be corrupt, right? It's okay.
Wouldn't the example, by the way, as far as I know, Matt Binder never said South America was the #1 protector of Nazis of the war. He was just showing that they existed, that it happened. But I think the better example would be somebody claims black people can't be corrupt after a corruption scandal with a black person, and somebody's like, here's a history of corruption in Africa. That would be, in my mind, that would be the comparison here, where it's like, no, it is possible. See, it is possible. Here's maybe a list of examples of it happening. That would be the comparison. Not black people are the most corrupt and Africa is the most corrupt continent on the planet. It would be, well, no, black people can't be corrupt. history of black people being corrupt or people from this country, said country being corrupt. Like, you could do that. That would be the comparison, not it is the most corrupt continent and, you know, Africans are just more corrupt than everyone else. No, you would just show examples of it happening, which that's what his purpose for linking the History Channel article was, to show that there is a history of Nazism and white supremacy in South America.
So it's okay for me to refer to the corrupt Africa stereotype.
What are you talking about, man? No, the difference, no, the equivalent would be if there was some sort of African mass shooter here who was driven by white supremacy or neo-Nazi ideology, and then me pointing to, oh, you know, there is a history in Africa of this. Just look at South Africa. It's the same fucking thing. That's the analogy.
Well,
man.
actually, the sensical analogy, if you want it to be like that, would be an African-American neo-Nazi doing a mass shooting and then being like, this is somehow due to like this fringe neo-Nazi group in South Africa or something, which would make no sense because it's a fucking African-American in the USA who's probably never even been to Africa in his life.
All right, but we are talking about a secondary thing here, and let me get back to my analogy, because you keep going back to the shooter, and that's not what this discussion turned into. Yes, that was the catalyst for this whole conversation that came here in the United States, but the main topic of conversation, by the time I got to it with that reference to that article, was strictly, can Latinos and Hispanics be white supremacists or neo-Nazis? But anyway, so you talk about Ukraine, right? And you talk about
we're not talking about Ukraine.
But you talk about Ukrainian, but we weren't talking about African American presidents.
You think I
either.
don't know how this works? It's like, buddy, you love Putin. I know exactly how this works. Putin,
no, I don't think you love Putin. I don't think you love Putin.
He doesn't even know. Wait, does he actually not see the connection? Does he not see the connection here? Or he's going to talk about a country being stereotyped as a Nazi country, and he can't see the connection here with Ukraine. He just. Okay, so he's stopping him from doing this analogy. He actually doesn't know what the analogy is going to be about.
You talk about Ukrainian neo-Nazis, right? You talk about Ukrainian neo-Nazis, right? I talk about them too, right? They exist, right?
I absolutely would not just randomly refer to like Ukrainian neo-Nazis in a context that's completely removed from them for no reason whatsoever. No.
If someone of Eastern European background committed a mass shooting here and they had some sort of background that brought you back there, you would bring up, and in America, liberals started to say, oh, they can't be neo-Nazis. Ukraine is all about no neo-Nazis there. That's Russian imperialist propaganda. You would. No doubt about it. And so would I say that's bullshit. You could see that there's a history of Ukrainian Nazis.
There's a bit of an issue here, right? We're talking about Ukrainians.
I do have to just put out there that there is a much bigger, while that is true, there is a much bigger history of Ukrainians dying to defeat Nazism. 2.5 million were casualties of the Soviet Red Army in the quest and the fight against the Nazi invasion of Ukraine and the rest of the Soviet Union.
And then we're talking about Ukraine. In this other case, we're talking about a Mexican, and then we're talking about South America.
No, because there was a whole conversation. There was a whole conversation about Latinos and Hispanics all together. That was a conversation.
That's an American idea, which makes
and that's what and that's what I'm talking about, man. Maybe that's where there's some sort of misunderstanding or language barrier. I think
the misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. Like, you were referring to a stereotype that is used constantly to legitimize imperialism against Argentina. It absolutely is a stereotype.
It's not a stereotype. It's a historical fact, dude. It happened.
Okay.
Matt Bender, like in a few more posts, he was going to say, you know what? That country I never mentioned in any of my posts, Argentina, we need to invade to depose its Nazi government.
You're okay. It's a historical fact then when all your followers respond to me being like, all Argentines have German surnames. Like, why is your father a Nazi? Things like that. It's not a stereotype.
Dude, he's now just complaining about his Twitter followers. I'm sorry, man. This is just silly.
Stereotype. 200 Nazi war criminals in Argentina. that is not a stereotype. It's actually true. Like you're not going to convince me that these people know anything about what they're talking about. That they're basing any of this on historical facts.
I never threw down any number or anything.
It's obviously a stereotype. Like I have fucking academic articles right here, fucking ready to go, fucking fully torqued. They've got fucking massive hard-ons here, ready to go about this stereotype. Specifically in the US and how it came to be.
So
it's
maybe
clearly
you
a real thing that exists, or there wouldn't be articles about it.
Okay, and the fact that Nazis went to Germany also is, I mean, Nazis from Germany went to Argentina and other South American countries obviously happened too. Otherwise, there wouldn't be articles about it. I mean, what are you talking about?
We're not specifically talking about did Nazis go to Argentina or did they go anywhere else?
I feel like if we're talking about the stereotype of Nazis going to Argentina, we're talking about the stereotype. The fact of whether Nazis did or did not go to Argentina would probably be a large part in coming to that conclusion, whether it's a stereotype or not. No, if it isn't true, but people believe it, then that would be a stereotype.
So we're talking about a specific stereotype, the one that your History Channel article specifically referenced.
For the record, they did go to Argentina. Even if I think like the idea that like, of course, are Argentinians today descend from Nazis, anything like that, of course, ridiculous. But also, I don't want to underplay the fact that yes, Nazis did go to Argentina and hide there, like Adolf Eichmann.
I didn't even link to any fucking article, man. I didn't link to any article. I used a fucking screenshot.
Of an article.
Yeah, because the whole point was just to point out that, yeah, there's a history of Nazis and white supremacy in South America and Latin America. You were foaming at the mouth for some content that you saw somebody post that
I am not foaming at the mouth
and read 100 things into it. What are you talking about? You're the one sitting there prepared apparently dozens of academic articles, and I just threw up the stream right now.
Right, because
right now.
If you don't I don't know why you are like bragging about not knowing what you're talking about. That's not a good thing.
I never said I don't know what I'm talking about. I said I didn't need to prepare for this.
Haven't prepared anything. This is like kind of a thing that people do when they're not.
You just have academic articles ready to go 24/7.
Yeah.
I like Empanada's defense now. Look, I have a bunch of links to articles. I mean, they would matter if the conversation I thought I was going to have with you, we were having, because I assumed a bunch of things about what you believe. But now these things that are now useless to me because the conversation I was projecting onto you is not happening. I'm prepared now. So now it needs to create something out of it. So now it needs to be a point. Well, I was prepared and you weren't. Well, yeah, if I went into a conversation to talk about a thing I never said, it'd be kind of hard for me to have sources on the thing I never said.
Yeah.
You just have academic articles ready to go 24/7. All right, that's cool. Good. Let's bring them up then. Bring them out. Bring them out. I read things too, man. I read things too.
So, you're trying to tell me it's not a stereotype? Like this idea of like Nazi Argentina, this is not a stereotype.
Peasants podcast Billy the Fridge was talking about you boxing people in Creator Clash, like who you might fight if you did Creator Clash. Oh, I don't know who I'd fight. It'd be interesting because people are going to be like, oh, Infrared, Jackson Hinkle. Of course, like that'd be fun and everything. But I don't think either of them would ever agree to something like that. They've memed about it enough to, I think, show that they like the idea of that type of a blow, if they would actually lose, is too big for their ego for them to ever agree to something like that. But if we could find something that would make it fun, I would be open to trying something like that. Obviously, in the immediate future, it's kind of hard for me to agree to anything considering what I'm doing in Ukraine. But who knows, training to box in Ukraine, if there's ever a country that can get your boxing smarts in line just spiritually, it is Ukraine, man. This is a country of boxers, man. Usyk, Lomachenko, even though a lot of people don't like Lomachenko, the Klitschko brothers. I mean, this is a boxer's country, man.
Stereotyping the American psyche, it's not a thing. Is that like a correct assessment of what you're telling me?
Well, there's a history of, of obviously American propaganda for all sorts of different countries. And for Argentina, one of them is the United States of America pushed that it was a Nazi haven, sure, because there is some truth into propaganda at times, absolutely.
So they pushed it because there's some truth in the propaganda, right? There's also some truth in the fact that African governments tend to be corrupt.
Oh, without a doubt, they are corrupt.
That randomly for no reason.
Of course,
in a very clearly problematic context that legitimizes imperialism.
No, but how does it legitimize imperialism to bring up historical fact? I don't understand. I don't understand how
does it legitimize imperialism? How does it legitimize imperialism for me to say, okay, so Peron invited like 200 Nazis into Argentina.
Just
Ergo,
200?
Peron
All right.
was a Nazi. Yes, 200. Ergo, Peron was a Nazi.
Oh,
Ergo,
he had
people
a
who call
pretty...
themselves Peronists are also Nazis. Ergo, the primary center-left force in Argentina are Nazis, and we should all hate them. That's how this logic works. It's how it's employed. It's
Matt Binder didn't bring up Peron, which I think it's spelled P-E-R-U-N. I forget exactly the name, but he was like an old leader of Argentina. Whether or not he kicked those people out doesn't even necessarily make him a Nazi. Maybe he collaborated with Nazis fleeing. I would have to go back and do the research. But everything that's being said right now, none of it was stated by Matt Binder. The idea that Matt Binder posting an article in response to somebody saying South American Nazis, never heard of such a thing. And he posts an article saying, yeah, no, they exist. That him posting that article was him implying the stereotype, what is being alleged to be the stereotype of Argentinian Nazis, therefore extending to Matt Binder reinforcing beliefs about wanting to do regime change in Argentina because of this administration that has been gone for like 60, 70, 80 years now of Peron and him possibly collaborating with Nazis fleeing. None of this was said by Matt Binder. It's all just things that like BadEmpanada built up in his mind about things that, Matt Binder believes based upon very little information. And so now he was ready for a conversation with somebody who isn't even real because his image of Matt Binder in his head and what he believes about this, he just completely just built up in his head. They're ready for two totally different conversations.
It's very common. You've never heard of this before?
No, of course I have, but the idea, what makes you think that the guy who helped bring in Nazis from Germany after World War II didn't have Nazi sympathies and feel for these people?
Do you think that like the people in, let's say, hypothetically, because Peron was a very FDR-like leader. Obviously, FDR died before the war was over, but what happened in the US would have happened if he was still the president afterwards.
Sure.
Let's say, hypothetically, FDR had survived the war. He was the one who happened to be in power when the US invited all the Nazis. Did that make him a Nazi?
Yeah, I would say if he brought in Nazis, it would have been really bad for him. Yeah, I think
it doesn't make him a Nazi. I do think that is reductionist, but I also don't think that that Peron bringing in Nazis necessarily means that he should be like, oh, we need to wipe that crime away. We need to wipe away the fact that some of the worst Nazis who were involved in extermination were accepted into his country. Like, oh, we just ignored that. Like, it's one thing to say, well, we don't know that he was a Nazi. We don't know that we're pretty confident that FDR isn't a Nazi. He fought a war against the Nazis. Peron never fought a war against the Nazis, by the way. But that doesn't mean we ignore this or we pretend this thing didn't happen or it didn't lead to his country, Argentina, being a hotbed for some of the worst Nazis after the war. The worst Nazis involved deeply in the extermination of Jews.
I think we could
ideologically.
He was
there's a difference between it being bad and it being like ideologically Nazi.
Oh yeah,
because the thing is, when we're talking about like a politician and their ideology, especially a politician like FDR or Juan Domingo Perón, people who are in power for quite a long time. I think FDR was like 12 years, Perón like 9 years, at least the first term. You can look at what they actually did. You don't specifically need to infer things from, like their sympathies or whatever. So you can look at what they actually did and judge off their policies, their politics as implemented in practice, given the fact they were actually in, heads of state. You can look at that and you can judge whether they're Nazi or not. So given, Perón was very much in his economic policy, pretty much like FDR, social policy like any other, white guy in power at the time.
Perón was
just
not...
like FDR.
You're trying to push forward that Perón was some sort of progressive hero? Is that really what you're trying to do?
Okay, can you explain, like, with some sort of reference to something that he actually did? Like, what do you mean by progressive hero? Was FDR a progressive hero?
Well, I would say for some people he is and some people he isn't. I mean, he did...
Economically, sure.
He was.
Okay, so I'm just doing a basic Google search on this because I'm going to be honest, South American politics is not my forte. It is not my area of expertise. Let me just read you just like the first few paragraphs off of the evil Western dog Wikipedia. After World War II, Argentina became a haven for Nazi war criminals, with explicit protection from Perón, who even shortly before his death commented on the Nuremberg trials. In Nuremberg, at the time, something was taking place that I personally just considered a disgrace and an unfortunate lesson for the future of humanity. I became certain that the Argentine people also considered the Nuremberg process a disgrace, unworthy of the victors, who behaved as if they hadn't been victorious. Now we realize that the Allies deserved to lose the war. Now compare that to FDR, who actively pursued making the Nazis and the Japanese lose the war. I do think, you know, there's a bit of a difference between FDR and this guy. Just a bit of a difference. We can go a little bit deeper in here, but there's a big section of what looks like, one second. I'm trying to look at these photographs. Yeah, that looks like Nazi in exile, Nazi in exile, Nazi in exile. Yeah, no, they took a decent amount of Nazis. Yeah, from the Reich. Yeah, no, this is not. I mean, I guess you could say maybe it's sometimes exaggerated. I would have to check more popular media portrayals of Argentina, but yeah, no, this is a historical fact. This is something that happened. I mean, Adolf Eichmann's probably one of the most notorious examples of this. Oh my goodness, it wasn't even the Nazis. Many members of the notorious Croatian Ustaše, which was a very fascist organization, took refuge, fought with Hitler, took refuge in Argentina, as did Milan Stradnović, a former Serbian prime minister of monarchist Yugoslavia. In 1964, anyway, we get the idea. Let's continue.
Compared to what there was before.
Sure.
So how is it
He
wrong?
also-
Is
he al- he
Iran
also-
was not
he-
economically progressive compared to what there was before?
Well, sure, yeah, but just because you're economically progressive doesn't mean you're just
Exactly.
a
FDR was
progressive
also
period,
a
right?
racist.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's right.
so like,
So
do
what?
you think?
What are you trying to say? See,
I'm
I don't. I
trying to
think,
say,
I think you think I'm somebody else. That's the problem here, because I got no problem
I
saying
think
that FDR
that
was without a doubt a racist. FDR was without a doubt very had.
yes, the point
What?
is that I'm not trying to delegitimize FDR here. I'm not trying to attack FDR. I'm drawing a comparison between
Sure.
him and Juan Domingo Perón, who are very similar in terms of what they actually did.
Okay, all right. So, are you trying to say?
So-
What are you trying to say out of that?
What
not
I'm
being-
trying to say is that
Sure.
this guy, due to his sort of anti-American, anti-imperialist stance and the fact that he was the first politician to ever draw his base from the working class and take some sort of action against the landowning Spanish oligarchy, the fact that he also, after that, took in a few hundred Nazi war criminals, most of whom he had no knowledge of. Most of what he
there were
took
a lot
was, for
more than a
example,
few
similar to
hundred.
paper.
And what was his beliefs about the Nuremberg trial? Maybe I'm misinformed. Maybe right before he died, he released a final statement where he was like, actually, the Allies should have won, and all those people did deserve to hang. Maybe he did like a last minute reversal, but I highly doubt it.
In terms of war criminals, there's 180.
That was based on a what was like an Argentinian council. In
It
the
was
late 90s,
based
right?
on. It was based on a 2003 was the last revised report. 2003, essentially a convention of historians from Germany, Argentina, the US, pretty much everywhere, who made a list of 180 confirmed Nazi war criminals who entered Argentina in various capacities.
Okay, so we're just talking about, when we talk about war criminals, do we mean people who are convicted and their search warrants out for war crimes? Or are we talking about just Nazis in general? Because I would assume there were Nazis who did commit war crimes, but there's not warrants out for them. I would assume there was also the families of Nazis and just regular Nazis who fled with their other Nazi staff out of the country. Like we're just saying convicted war criminals then. People who, like, there's warrants out currently for the arrest of.
Most of them were actually Croatian, not German.
Sure.
Ustaše.
Okay.
So-
The Nazis, nonetheless, though. I don't really care
And
whether
then
they're
there were-
from Germany or not.
Yes. And then there were also scientists, whatever.
Right. Just like the U.S. Right.
Just war criminals? Got you. Okay.
This was a transnational network. Pretty much every single country that had aspirations to like be something after the war did this.
Oh,
including the
I get it.
Soviet Union.
You're separate. You're saying specifically 158 war criminals. So the other thousands of Nazis that came in, 180 war criminals. The other
well,
Nazis
there were about
came in
20,000 Germans post-war who settled in Argentina, and about 80,000 more who passed through the country to a different final destination.
Okay.
Compared to the U.S., that is quite
I saw
minor
that
amount.
I saw that an Argentinian
Minor amount in total number or minor amount per capita, because America is substantially larger than Argentina.
Researcher recently, I think like in the past like 3 years ago, I think it was, discovered a list of 12,000
I'm so happy that you mentioned that. So that's a pre-war list. That's a pre-war list from the 1930s. The reason that we have that list was actually seized by the government when they raided a Nazi Party of Germany. What do you call them in English?
So let me just get this. Let me just get. Okay, so continue. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying. I don't want to interrupt.
So that list is of Nazi Party of Germany members from the pre-war German migrant community in Argentina. Right? It's not Nazis from Germany who escaped. And the reason that we have that list is because the government at the time raided their offices and seized it.
Okay, so so you're saying to me that there weren't that many Nazis in Germany because the Nazis excuse me, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Thank you for pointing it out. That there weren't that many Nazis in Argentina because they got there before the war ended.
What I'm saying is that's irrelevant to what we're talking about, which is post-war Nazi.
No. What we're talking about.
Right? What you're talking about.
We're talking about.
What you're
Nazis.
talking about is the pre-war German migrant community.
We're talking about Nazis.
You're talking about something completely different.
I love how none of this is even connected anymore to the original point which Matt made, which has already was like conceded at the first moment of this debate, is that yes, there are Nazis and white nationalists in South America. They do exist, and being South American does not automatically make you not a Nazi. And the screenshot that Matt posted of the History Channel article, which he posted to show that they do exist, he was not using it to make any statement about Argentina, and he certainly wasn't using it to make any statement about Argentina's leader from like World War II era, Perón, who helped harbor Nazis and Ustase in his country, and did not have the most favorable view of the Allies and or of the Nuremberg trials. So I don't think Matt Binder wanted to talk about any of these things when he posted that image. I don't think he was implying anything about Perón. I don't think he was implying anything about Argentina. He didn't mention Argentina until people got angry at him and were responding to him about Argentina. It really just feels like BadEmpanada wanted an outlet to talk about this. He even said it at the start of this, and I think that kind of gave the whole game away, what he said at the start. What he said at the start of this was that he's using Matt Binder as a catalyst to talk about something else. So Matt, who didn't want to even talk about this other thing, who never brought up this other thing, never talked about Perón, didn't even mention Argentina, is now by force trying to be turned into a catalyst for him to make a separate YouTube video about something that Matt Binder never even mentioned. And so now they, by force at this point, has dragged the conversation all the way over to an area that Matt Binder is not an expert in, nor has Matt Binder even ever mentioned in any of the threads talking about this topic. So now we're at this area that's completely separate from the original topic because BadEmpanada wanted to talk about something completely different, but needed to use this to hook in Matt to talk about this topic that I doubt he even frankly cares about that much.
I want to talk about like pre-war Nazi German migrant communities. Every single country had those. The U.S. had the biggest. The U.S. had a rally of 30,000 Nazis.
Yeah, I know. We had riots in Madison Square Garden. I'm in New York City, baby. I know.
Hey, that was pre-war. He's talking about the German-American Bund. And so the pre-war list of Nazis to escape to Argentina, that doesn't count. But the pre-war Nazi rally that was held in America by the then afterwards and since banned German-American Bund, and they were banned for collaboration with the Nazis for being, Nazis. Not to talk about even the Silver Legion or the other organizations. We're counting that for post-war? I don't know.
All about it. I don't deny it. I don't deny it. I don't deny
Argentina
it.
is a Nazi haven because
No, I didn't
the
say
Nazis
nobody-
agitated among German immigrants in the 1930s. That's a very different claim to what we were talking about before. Which
Dude,
was
they held Nazi rallies in Argentina.
Nazis
They
fleeing to
held
Argentina
just like here in the U.S. They held Nazi rallies in Argentina.
Yeah, there was a Nazi rally in Argentina held at the Jockey Club as well. There's the equivalent of Madison Square Garden in Buenos Aires. Do you know who supported that? Do you know who attended that?
Sure, go
the
ahead.
same oligarchs who the U.S. then supported and
Dude,
and who then they supported and put on with the Nazi label. Isn't that great?
Okay, sure. Why do you keep acting like I'm going to defend the United States? That's just terrible,
Because
dude.
the entire
why don't you also
this conversation?
But why can't you just say that the whole conversation's really weird to me because and this was the same thing I was experiencing with Argentinian people too. Like sending me video images of 9/11 and all sorts of American neo-Nazis and stuff. Hell yeah, man.
Really good.
The United States.
Did you hear that from BadEmpanada, by the way? 9/11 was really good. He was recently talking about on Twitter another thing. I vaguely remember this conversation, but his view of 9/11 is that it attacked the center of American imperialism, its economic center. Therefore, maybe there is some moral justification to the terror attack. And now you can hear him saying it is very good. BadEmpanada is perfectly fine with these types of events as long as it's against America. From everything that I've taken from BadEmpanada, just about any action taken against the United States is a good action. Terrorism, it's okay. Wars of conquest, it's okay. Anything done against the United States is good because it is the center of global capitalism and imperialism. So no level of moral depravity, even killing innocent people in these buildings, which he says are not innocent because they upheld the economic structures of the center of imperialism, that it was morally justified and morally okay for this to happen. I mean, you could use this justification then to basically kill anyone, and where its countries involved in any type of bad actions. You could use this to kill janitors in the United States because those janitors pay taxes, which then go into the American military, which are then used to do drone strikes in the world. I could use this if I wanted to justify terrorism in schools in Russia, saying the people who are educated in that school system shall then maybe go into the weapons manufacturing society in that country, that they have teachers there who are indoctrinating their students, and so we need to attack. You could use this to justify any number of atrocious immoral actions, but it's BadEmpanada. He does not have a lot of strong moral axioms that hold him on the straight and narrow against the most basic of moral depravity.
Is horrible, dude. They are the number one importer, exporter of white supremacy and neo-Nazism. I'm just saying it's super weird to me. It's super weird to me that when I just simply point out historical fact that Nazis were indeed all over the world, including South America, the only people.
The reason why people get
that's
angry
where I get
at that
weird. That's why I get weird about it. That's
stereotype. People. There's no specific stereotype about the couple thousand Nazis who went to Australia. There's no specific stereotype about the hundreds of Nazis who went to New Zealand. There's no specific stereotype about the thousands upon thousands of Nazi collaborators in France. The stereotype is Argentina.
All those articles?
That's why when people see you posting that, they get angry.
All the articles you can find online all say South America, South America. Even the various different Jewish groups that I've read, all from South.
That's precisely the point.
Because they're specifically talking about
focus.
No, it's not a focus. Yeah, there's a focus on South American Nazis when they're talking about South America. That's it, buddy.
You weren't talking about South America, though.
We were talking about
They were talking about whether somebody of a South American descent could be Nazi. And so that's why he was talking about South American Nazis. Maybe if the dude was Australian, then Matt Binder would be talking about Australian Nazis. Maybe if the dude was I don't know, fucking Japanese, then maybe he would be talking about fascism in Japan. Maybe he'd be talking about any of these other topics. But it was because people were trying to say Mexicans can't be Nazis, which is what we've been seeing on Twitter. It's what we've been seeing on Facebook. This idea that this is impossible. It must be a psyop. There's no such thing as a brown racist. what are you talking? Which is silly when you think about it, because I've always heard that, oh, what you think it's only white people that can be racist? That's silly. Now we're like, okay, here is a racist brown person, and all of a sudden, no, that's impossible. But that's what he was trying to refer to, that yes, people from South America can be Nazis. They can be fascists. That's the only point he wanted to get across. And now we're talking about Perón. Now we're talking about all these other things completely unrelated to what Matt Binder's original point was, because again, Matt Binder is only being used as a catalyst to talk about something else.
Latino and Hispanic.
I'm trying to explain to you why those people got angry at you. Because
to me, I've learned
stereotype that of Argentina being like a singular special Nazi haven, and you're not going to tell me that you've never heard of this before. There's no fucking way. Have you ever watched the History Channel? It's impossible. They run reruns of that shit every fucking day.
I actually don't watch the History Channel.
Stereotype. We had a terrible childhood, but there is a specific stereotype emanating from the USA, which originates in the wartime US with the ambassador to Argentina, creating this idea of like Argentina planning to harbor the Fourth Reich and create like the resurgent Nazi empire post-war. And from that, this stereotype, which, eventually led to stuff like the Evita musical and stuff like that, spread throughout the consciousness of Americans, and it created this idea of Argentina as this singular sort of Nazi haven. So when I and many others...
If this is a normal conversation, can I tell you exactly how this would have gone? By the way, Rhizome, thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate it. Man created beer. I don't know what type of memes you guys are doing, but I appreciate the raid. If this was a normal conversation, right, between Matt Binder and BadEmpanada, this is how it would have gone. Hey, Matt Binder, yeah, I saw you link this article which talked about Argentinian Nazis. You don't think that the Argentine people, you don't believe this wacky little country in South America was particularly special when it comes to accepting Nazis? And then he'd be like, not particularly. I mean, Perón, maybe if he knows a little bit about Perón. I mean, Perón was bad on this, and this. And, he accepted Nazis, and, he said this about the Nuremberg trials, pretty yikesy. But at the end of the day, all these other countries took Nazis too. And in fact, that is what Matt Bender said in response. At that point, the conversation should have been over, because then he would have been like, okay, then all this stuff I prepared for, this conversation about the history of this image of Argentina, of all this stuff, it's all useless. And then the conversation's over. But the content gods are the content gods. And if there's anything that you can say about BadEmpanada, is the dude is incredibly stubborn, no matter how many times he's proven wrong. And so he just keeps on trucking. He just keeps on going until he can find something vaguely related to this topic that he can argue with Matt Binder over.
Saw you posting that, right? That's what we think of.
Okay. All right. I mean,
so that's why Argentines get angry at you, because for one, it is true, obviously, that there were Nazis in Argentina. It's true that there were Nazis in many countries, but it's specifically because it's literally a fucking History Channel article. Come on, it's referring to the stereotype using
it's not a fucking stereotype if it happened, man. I mean, this is so ridiculous.
There were not. Hitler did not come to Argentina.
I never said Hitler. See, you're not trying to put words in my mouth.
That's Hitler the stereotype, though. The stereotype
not. Everyone
is like
knows that's ridiculous.
It takes a grain of truth and exaggerates it to an absurd degree.
Maybe he thinks. Maybe he's like the conspiracy. I know there's a conspiracy that Hitler fled and he didn't die in Berlin, and that he fled to Argentina. I never put any weight into it. Is he talking about that? Because if you talk about Hitler going to like Argentina in a U-boat, then I guess you can blame the History Channel for giving that conspiracy any weight, giving it any airtime. But I think that less has to do with the American government, which has discredited the idea since like the 1950s. But I think that more has to do with the money grubbing nature of the History Channel, which has given up the idea of actually talking about history and more just like to talk about conspiracy theory and aliens.
No. But you are using the absurdity of Hitler escaping Germany right now, but that's not what you brought up before.
Dylan, it's called Argentina. Yeah, Argentina, whatever, okay? Look, okay, there's a lot of countries in the world. You can't expect me to know the names of all of them, even when talking about them.
that
you
up.
said
I
before
brought that
you
up as an example of how the stereotype operates. Like the reason why there's this idea of Hitler escaping to Argentina, right, rather than, for example, Hitler escaping to the US, which at least numerically, like by percentage, would make more sense. The reason why there's that idea of like Hitler escaping to Argentina and all of that is because of that stereotype. Created
all right,
and
but you were now trying to conflate a wild conspiracy theory with actual true facts.
We actually compare per capita who took more Nazis. Was it Argentina or was it the United States? Per capita, because if you were to do like number for number, we're gonna beat them out, obviously, right? We're a bigger country, took much more powerful country, much more influential country. We have a lot more motivators probably for somebody wanting to come to America in Argentina. But if you were to sit them down and you were to do a per capita comparison, does anybody know what would be bigger? I don't know. It could be either way. I'm just genuinely asking. I'm genuinely curious.
I'm not conflating anything. I'm using that as an example.
Okay, I don't listen, dude.
The stereotype existing.
So we said 190 convicted Nazi war criminals. These are people who, these are war criminals. We know they're war criminals. I know that we took a lot of Nazi scientists after the war. How many of them were war criminals and how many of the ones we took in? Because I'm sure we definitely took in Nazis after the war, and I'm sure some of them were war criminals. But what percentage were war criminals and what percentage were, Nazis, which holder of a horrific ideology, but maybe they weren't convicted of war crimes? If that's the standard we're holding the Argentine nation state to, I'm doing everything I can. I'm very tired. It's like 5 a.m. where I'm at right now. If that's the standard we're holding Argentina to, why can't that be the standard we hold the United States to? That's the only point I'm making. Soviets also nabbed Nazi scientists. Yeah, I know. Everybody nabbed Nazi scientists after the Second World War.
Basically.
But if it's a historical fact that Nazis did indeed escape Germany, and even before that left Germany or wherever they were, Croatia, wherever you said most of them came from, Nazis in Europe came over to South America. And
somebody in chat is saying 1,500 Nazis came to America as 10,000 came to Argentina. But okay, when you're saying Nazis, do you mean German immigrants after World War II? Like literally anybody who was German who left Germany after seeing the ruins of that country and decided, I'm getting out of here? Because I wouldn't say that's fair to say they're all Nazis, right? And also the conversation that seemed to be about Nazi war criminals, right? It was that 1,500 like American, like we know these are Nazi war criminals. Those are people who were members of the Nazi party. Those are just like German citizens. Okay, this is something that we would probably have to revisit on another day. It's a hard G like in GIF. Argentina? No, I don't think it's like a G as in GIF. It's Argentina, right? Argentina. Argentine, right? Or is it Argentina? It's not Argentina. You're breaking my mind more. You're making me more wrong.
And we are talking in the context.
Argentina, thank you. But that's not GIF, Argentina, Gin. It was more like a J, not like whatever.
Of this discourse that was going on of whether Latino and Hispanic people can be Nazis and white supremacists, then I think it's very relevant to bring up just a basic historical fact that, there's a history of Nazis and white supremacy in Argentina, in Chile, in Brazil, in Uruguay, in Paraguay, in you name it. It's all over the place. And that's all that this was. And if a bunch of Argentinian people got upset about it, either they misunderstood me, which that sucks, or I saw a lot of right-wing Argentinian people also going at me. They're trying to deny their history.
They wouldn't go at you.
They
love that. They love that. They love that. They say that Perón did it. Every 2 weeks they print a new article about that. They absolutely love it.
Well, there was a few people who were denying it who definitely were right-wingers, sharing all sorts of far right-wing memes, and they were telling me that that never happened. Again, this is a very small...
No, the right disagrees with me. No, the right wing disagree with me. I hate the right wingers more. No, I hate the right wingers more. Sorry, man. Internet debates on the left, huh?
internet portion of the community. But I mean, in the same sense, I heard from people from Mexico, people from Chile, people from Bolivia, people from Peru, all bring to me their experience and them saying, yeah, there's white supremacy and neo-Nazis here 100%. And then also bring up how weird they thought it was that the only people who had a problem with it was Argentinians, who they say they experience racism from all the time in their home countries.
So you think it's weird that Argentines have a problem with you spreading this?
No,
what
I think
just
it's.
said. This,
I think.
this,
I
this,
think.
It's funnier that Dylan forgot how to say Argentina halfway through the react. Look, it's tired, okay? It's what time is it right now here in Ukraine? It is 6 a.m. It is 6 a.m. here in Ukraine, okay? I feel like I get a pass. I should get a pass.
I think it's a
historical
combination.
stereotype of Argentina as like
I
this
think-
special Nazi haven. That's what people are angry about. It's not
Mm.
this idea that Nazis went to Argentina at all. Obviously they did. It's this idea that Argentina is this special Nazi haven.
But I never called it a special Nazi haven. I posted literally a headline that said South America was a Nazi haven. Wasn't even a special Nazi haven. Wasn't even the Nazi
It's a
haven.
History Channel article.
Yeah, and you just said it was
probably
great.
didn't
You
read
loved
the
watching.
article,
You
but-
said you loved watching History Channel. That's why I didn't share the article, dude. I just posted
Yeah, when I
the
was
screenshot of the.
11 years old, I thought
Well,
it
you
was
just said
fucking
how
awesome.
great it
I
was.
love
I'm the one who
ancient
told
aliens.
you. I'm the one who told you I didn't watch it at all, and I don't know what to tell you, man. You told me how great it was just now. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. This is sort of like a silly conversation because I agree with you with everything you're going to say about America, and how
It's not. I'm not complaining about America. I'm not saying America is bad here. I'm not just saying that. I'm saying that you could make that point for one in a way that makes.
But by the way, I have a hard time believing that the person who is fine justifying 9/11 doesn't have some part of him that's just like, of course, I just want to hate on America. That yes, this is another outlet for me to hate on America and just be angry at the Americans. I highly doubt it.
A lot more sense. And for two, without referring to a myth that is constantly used to legitimize imperialism against Argentina.
How do you bring up
I think
neo-Nazi?
challenging that myth
How
is
do you
better.
bring up Nazis in South America without you claiming it's going to be some sort of imperialism? I mean,
Why
how do you,
bring up Nazis in South America?
I
in that
just
context at
told
all?
you, dude, because the context was talking about, they were bringing up how there is a rise in in white supremacy and Nazism within Latino and Hispanic communities, and people were denying that could be possible. So I simply
Right.
showed some historical context in terms of how South American countries, all the way back in the 1940s and before that even, but let's stick with post World War II, were welcoming Nazis from Germany and elsewhere in Europe to come to their countries and find a safe haven, just like it was also happening elsewhere.
Okay, so Mexico is in North America.
Right, but
But
we were.
apart from that, the explanation.
Are you
for-
saying? Are
the
you going to argue that
explanation-
Mexican people wouldn't consider them part of the broader Latino or Hispanic
You said
community?
South America. I don't think most people consider themselves part of a Latino or Hispanic community in Latin America. No.
He won a linguistic win. BadEmpanada has smitten the fantastic Matt Bender. It's over.
But apart
Over. Linguistic win.
from that,
Win by technicality. The best type of victory.
if you want to explain Latino neo-Nazis, specifically brown-skinned Latino neo-Nazis,
I mean, half
in the
half
US,
my family,
there
half my family.
are much better ways to do that. For example, you can refer to the fact that the reason why these people exist now is because
All right,
they're all
now
radicalized on the internet, where no one sees them and they don't see each other.
But now you're like tone policing. Now you're going, oh no, you didn't say things exactly how I wanted you to
absolutely
say.
am tone policing you because
that's
you're
so
spreading
weird.
a damaging myth used to legitimize
damaging
imperialism.
myth.
You literally,
It's damaging to mention the fact that there were Nazis in Argentina.
in this country, like,
do you talk about?
if you talk in English,
He didn't even mention Argentina. That's the funniest part. This is all anger about a country he didn't even mention in the original post.
voting for like some fucking center-left Biden-esque, like fucking lesser evil.
I don't tell
Peronist
anybody to vote
candidate.
for. I don't tell anybody to vote for anybody.
It's just an example. Okay, I'm not accusing
So
you of anything.
here's an example.
Let's start another conversation with Matthew Binder over beliefs that he again does not hold and things he has not said.
I'm trying to give you an example of how this narrative is used to legitimize essentially imperialism against Argentina. You mentioned like, you vote for like the lesser evil in Argentina, which is pretty much always the Peronist, and you get called a Nazi by Americans. And
I've never. That must be really specific because most Americans have no idea, dude. I mean, you could say the same about people who vote for Democrats when there's a history of the KKK and literal former Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizards being Democrats or whatever. I mean, you could say the same thing here.
The only person who does that is fucking Dinesh D'Souza, because obviously we're taught, there was no like. Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at, buddy.
Yeah, and he has movies playing in movie theaters. When I was a little bit younger, I went to one of those movie theaters. It was a movie he made about Hillary Clinton. It was so bad. It was so awful. The whole premise of the movie was like, God damn, the Democrats are really the real racists, and that's why we should vote for Donald Trump. It was a really bad movie. But he's not the only person who sees this. You see these narratives all the time online. Democrats are the real racists. Do you know the true history of the KKK? You'll see people on the side of the road doing like these talks with people like, who do you think started the KKK? And then they'll put the mic in somebody's face and they'll be like, I don't know. I guess the Republicans. And be like, wrong, it was the Democrats. And they'll be like, wow, I didn't know that. And there's a YouTube video with 2 million views. Like, yeah, it's a narrative you see in online politics in the West a lot. Not in the West, in the United States.
Republican
That's what I'm getting at. I'm talking about how if you can't just like come to the historical fact that, yeah, we could say that there were Nazis
We're not talking about
in South America or Argentina. But we are, though, because that's what you have a problem with. You're saying I shouldn't bring it up.
The problem isn't with
it's
the historical
imperialism.
facts. It's one thing to talk about this, honestly or whatever within the context. It's another to just randomly bring up this myth to get a simple little gotcha on some right-wing account on Twitter.
No, but
the entire reason why people get pissed off at you is because they're sick of seeing this sort of stereotype being used against them.
The only people who got pissed at me were a bunch of Argentinians, and that's a huge deal to me.
Why wouldn't they get pissed at you?
When I hear the rest of...
It's a huge tell to you? Why wouldn't they get pissed at you?
Why didn't any of the other people...
I like how every question BadEmpanada ever asks is always... it's just rhetorical. It's never an actual question, because you can tell, because he'll ask a question, then he'll ask another question, then another question. As you try to answer his first question, he's getting the third or fourth question out. It's never an actual question. It's always like, why are you such a racist? Okay, sorry, my mic went out. It's never a question asked in earnest, man.
People in South American countries, because again the article said South America. Why did because
there's not any sort of cultural stereotype that this is what they are.
In Brazil, there's no cultural stereotype about Brazil.
There is absolutely no stereotype among Americans, among foreigners, that Brazil is a special Nazi haven. You're not going to tell me where's the musical about Brazil? Where's the American
musical, dude? You're obsessed with the musical, man.
Yeah, it's an incredibly fucking well.
Can we start a musical about Nazis in Brazil? What would the openings? What would the songs be? You guys got any song ideas? Any song? I mean, like, I think we should open with like "On the Road Again" with Willie Nelson as they go through the rat tunnels and they're fleeing Berlin. We have to open on Berlin Falling, right? We have to open on Berlin Falling. We open with Berlin Falling. And then we transition into Willie Nelson after we start with like an epic battle scene that's on the road again as they go through the rat lines until they get to Brazil. And then there has to be like a thematic change, and they're probably going to be playing like a lot of Brazilian music, which I don't know, like Hitler in Springtime in Germany. Yeah, that could work. I think it could be a vibe like that.
Well-known musical that had a massive cultural effect. It's basically, if Americans know about Argentina, half the time it's because of the fucking musical.
The fact that
half the time it's from the New York Times articles about
the fact
you're essentially trying to discount something that is so well known that there's like an entire academic literature about it, like American cultural perceptions of Argentina.
Dude, the fact that there is such a major discourse going on in this country about how people of Hispanic or Latino origin could not be white supremacists or Nazis should tell you that, in fact, that there's not such, at least in modern day American culture, not such a big stereotype. When did that Evita musical come out? No one even talks about it anymore.
Talking about Argentina here, not about American culture and American
you
Nazis.
you are talking about Argentina again. I
Oh
never
yeah,
said
X-Men Origins. That's another great one. X-Men Origins. Like I believe the opening scene of that movie is like a mutant Nazi hunter in Argentina in Villa Gesell, which is a big.
Didn't the IDF send this is a very famous story? It wasn't the IDF. I think it was the Mossad sent Nazi hunters into Argentina to capture Adolf Eichmann, who they then deported back to Israel to then sentence to death for his crimes during the Holocaust. I mean, maybe it would be a crazy opening for the X-Men movie if it didn't literally happen.
Resort town, but for some reason it's in the Andes.
Well, yeah,
so it is a very well-known cultural stereotype about Argentina in the U.S., and it's very damaging. It's employed fairly often by the American media to like drum up hatred of the Argentine center left.
But that's also another historical fact that there were indeed Nazi hunters specifically in countries like Brazil and Argentina, because that's where Nazis were. I mean,
you seem to like just be arguing that the stereotype is correct. Is that like true?
What he just said is just undeniably true, that there were Nazi hunters in Argentina. What's wrong of setting the setting in Argentina, where one of the most notorious Nazis that were captured in like the 60s, which is much more recent memory than the 1940s, when a lot of the rat lines collapsed and, you know, where some of the people were caught during the failed evacuations, when Adolf Eichmann, one of the most famous Nazis that were still alive at the time, was captured. So why would that not be an okay scene for X-Men to open with? How are they playing against the Latin American left by opening with that scene in X-Men Origins?
Stereotypes.
Trying to stick here, because when I mention the stereotype, you keep repeating, but it's true, but it's true, but it's true. But the problem isn't that
you're trying to call historical. Nazis. You're trying to call historical fact a stereotype, dude. It's one thing to say. It's one thing to say the United States of America weaponized these facts and used it as propaganda to assert that something more was going on.
Facts. Like, it's one thing to say Nazis went to Argentina, Nazis went to Brazil, Nazis went to the
That's
USA.
all I said, exactly.
It's another thing to say Nazis went to Argentina. Not all the Nazis went to Argentina. The Nazis tried to make the Fourth Reich in Argentina. Argentina is this special secret.
Now, who in this conversation said that? Because it wasn't me. Who in this conversation said that?
The entire issue that I had with your tweet was that you were essentially spreading this myth of South America as this singular Nazi haven, specifically.
He didn't. That was not the. Okay, I'm done listening to this. This is ridiculous. Do you guys want to listen to any more of this? Because it's just the same. It's just back to the same thing. He wanted to bring this up to point out the fact that South Americans, people of Latin and Hispanic descent, they can be Nazis. That somebody being brown and somebody being from that continent, from somebody being of south of the border of the United States, does not stop them from being a fascist. And now it's about Perón. Now it's about the Blue Book. Now it's about the exact percentage of Nazis in Argentina versus the United States. And now it's about a bunch of details that Matt Binder was not questioning, was not bringing up to debate, when his point was about, South Americans can be Nazis, which BadEmpanada doesn't even deny. He has said this at the start, that this was just a mechanism for him to talk about a separate issue. That 100% is true. You can tell from the way he's engaging in this conversation that there's nothing that Matt Binder could say here that would please him, that would make him think, okay, you know what? You're right. You didn't mean that. I think that I shouldn't have put it that way. Or, you know what? I don't think you're making excuses for imperialism in Argentina. I think you simply just wanted to say that people in South America can be Nazi. Nope, it can't be that. Because you can't have a normal conversation with anyone. But again, somebody who justifies 9/11 is not going to be able to have a normal conversation with anyone. It's not. Anyway, that's enough of that. Wait, it's almost over, Dylan. Should press through it? Okay. Well, we'll press through it. We'll try to press through it a little bit more. But I will tap out if it gets too bad.
Argentina as this singular special Nazi haven, whether you meant to or not. And that stereotype, that myth is the thing that's not true. We're not simply arguing that no Nazis came to Argentina. We're talking about this specific myth of Argentina as the Nazi haven.
I
That is
well,
the
I
thing
never
that's
said
damaging.
that. I never said
That
that.
is the thing
though.
that people get angry at. That is why
Well, then that's on them then, man. That's on them because they need to learn reading comprehension and see what I read.
I guess they just need to learn to have supposed leftists just spreading imperialist ideas about that country.
Oh, those people had no idea who I was. Please, I mean the idea that again, let's bring up the fact that we all talk about Ukrainian neo-Nazis, right? Because they exist. It's a fact they exist. Yet for some reason, you don't also think that being that there is a country literally right now doing imperialism on them and using the propaganda that there are Nazis in Ukraine as their reason for doing imperialism.
While the Russians are also arming their own neo-Nazi militias like Rusich and are perfectly willing to work with neo-Nazis both in the international community, in Russia, and even in Ukraine in order to win the war, in order to advance the geopolitical goals. It's a very cynical mode of attack on Ukraine.
You won't, though, say, oh, you know, we should back off on bringing up Ukrainian neo-Nazis because Russia's weaponizing that fact to propagandize and use it to legitimize what they're doing to innocent people in Ukraine. You don't.
Can I just say, I think there is something to be said about having an honest conversation about the far right in Ukraine. I'm working on a project right now that hopefully can maybe have more of that honest conversation. But there is another thing between bringing it up and bringing it up maliciously to say there are Nazis in Ukraine, therefore the Russians should win. Because when you bring it up in that way, what you're doing is you're leaving out a ton of context, which I could see where the BadEmpanada position comes through here, where it could be like, hey, you should bring up the context that the Russians are also arming their own neo-Nazi militias. We should bring up the context that Nazis have very little political control in Ukraine. Actually, they have basically none, with non-discrimination protections being put in place for LGBTQ plus people, them being led by a Jew whose family was killed in the Holocaust. I mean, them celebrating the victory against Nazism. Like it'd be disingenuous to paint Ukraine as a Nazi state, just like it would be disingenuous to paint modern Argentina as a Nazi state. It would be very disingenuous and wrong to do that. But that's not even the thing that Matt Binder said. What the equivalent that Matt Binder is bringing forward here is a lot more charitable to BadEmpanada than his actual position was, because he never even brought up Argentina in the original post. He never talked about Peron. He never talked about Adolf Eichmann. He never talked about the Ustase being evacuated. He never talked about any of this. He never talked about the stereotype. He just said that there can be Nazis in South Africa. Not in South Africa, in South America, that they do exist. This would be like if someone asked me, can there be Nazis in Eastern Europe? Yes. Yes, there can.
Do that, though, right? You would never do that. I wouldn't do that either because I don't think... That. Really, you've done that before? Then you've done that before. So when you don't talk about
I don't think that there being neo-Nazis in Ukraine means that the country should be invaded. Yes.
Oh, good. Exactly. You shouldn't think
it's
that.
also not an equivalent scenario because what is the context of bringing this up exactly? It's just like a random American bringing up a decades-old stereotype.
Here's the funny thing, dude. You're talking to probably the only leftist streamer that has a show dedicated to talking about white supremacy, neo-Nazis, online far-right reactionaries.
There's no other leftist content creators that talk about Nazis. Matt Binder has locked that market down. He's locked down the Nazi talk market on the left. Nobody else does it. I have to bully him a little bit.
I said, no, you don't know who I am. I'm a nobody.
Sounds like Bellingcat.
What?
Sounds like Bellingcat.
Okay, well, I'm not Bellingcat. Bellingcat is not a left. They wouldn't consider themselves to be a leftist news organization. That's very clever, though, because I know that there's a well-intentioned bad rap on Bellingcat because they do some sketchy stuff.
What sketchy stuff does Bellingcat do? I'm actually interested. I want to hear what Matt Binder's sketchy stuff about Bellingcat is.
Tie me to them for your audience is very clever. I enjoy that. Nice move there. But
it's always the NED funding. The NED funding is always what's brought up from what I know.
Been covering neo-Nazis, white supremacists since I started a show back in 2018. It was my beat when I started working on the Majority Report back in 2011 and co-hosted a show with Michael Brooks. So you're probably talking to the American leftist who focuses on white supremacists and neo-Nazis in the United States of America more than any other leftist does. And the idea that you don't think it's relevant, that you constantly bring up... See,
That's a hell of a claim. I mean, he does focus on it. It's just a hell of a claim.
for me, I just want to talk about fucking the fact that neo-Nazis are all over the fucking world. That's it. I want to talk about the fact that you should not be hiding the fact, denying the fact that neo-Nazis exist in your country, that country, this country, because they exist and everyone needs to come to terms with it if they want to defeat it. If you're an anti-fascist, you need to talk about it. So when I'm bringing up Ukraine, my point is, you say, when I bring up the fact that Nazis fled to South America, and again, I'm not even talking about Argentina specifically. You keep doing that. But if you want me to say that, fine. When I bring up Nazis in Argentina, you say doing so is giving in to American imperialism because they've used it before for their propaganda. I'm saying, why isn't it the same thing? Why isn't the same thing? So maybe perhaps you are inadvertently doing that
if
to
you're
Ukraine.
inadvertently
To Ukraine.
spreading,
BadEmpanada is an American shill in Ukraine. I've heard it here first.
inadvertently spreading like imperialist propaganda from the fucking 1940s against the country that is still weaponized against that country to this very day, then yeah, I think you should maybe called out on that a little bit better.
No one is talking about Nazis in Argentina anymore. In fact, it's quite clear of that based on the reaction.
You pretty much brought it up.
Yeah, me. Am I the United States of America, dude?
By the way, he didn't bring it up in Argentina. He brought it up in all of South America. And now it's being made about Argentina, then being extended to the Blue Book, then being extended to Perón. And a lot of things that Matt Bender never said or never agreed with is now being snatched out of existence, out of thin air, and pinned to his name.
Little me, man, little me who you don't, that you just put, what was it you put in your headline there? Discount Sam Cedar. Apparently, I speak for all of America when I, in 2023, am the one American who brings up Nazism in South America. Because that's not a current discussion here. No,
that's the problem.
If that was the case, then why is there literally tons and tons of people? The literal discourse in this country right now is Latinos and Hispanic people cannot be white supremacists and Nazis. That's the basis of this whole conversation, dude. And you're claiming that's not true. The whole reason I even posted that article, that screenshot of that article, you're claiming is not true because everyone in America believes that Nazis and white supremacists are all over Argentina. Okay. You make zero sense, man.
I think I make perfect sense. So there's two separate things here. One is, can Latinos, Hispanics, however you use that term in the US, can they be white supremacists? Yes, they can.
Absolutely.
Another thing is the way you made that point. By referring to a damaging stereotype that legitimizes imperialism.
Referred to the fact that there are white supremacists and Nazis fled to South America post-World War II. They existed in South America. Didn't even specifically name Argentina, the land of the Argentinians, okay? Doesn't name it, just says all of South America. Now it's being hyper-focused on one element of South America that the article he screenshot mentioned, and then that's being extended to the Blue Book, which is then extended to Perón, which is then extended to American imperial interests. Therefore, he stereotyped Argentina by just mentioning the fact that there were neo-Nazis and Nazis and fascists in South America in his original tweet. A lot of stuff's being attached to his name that he never said.
In my country.
And what is that damaging stereotype? What is that damaging stereotype?
It's this idea that Argentina is a specific Nazi haven, and specifically that the Peronist ideology, which isn't really an ideology,
can you show me when I said that? Can you show me what I said any of that?
You don't have to say it to legitimize it. It can be accidental. It can be inadvertent.
Man. That's such bullshit, man. I mean,
how not?
Listen. If you want to have a regular, like if you wanted to have like a legitimate conversation about that, you would have reached out to me. But instead, you wanted to, pound on your chest and do this whole bravado thing in public because.
If I was to see a post, let's say I see a post by a Ukrainian soldier, and he's like, I like Hitler or some crazy shit online, right? And I quote tweet that and I say, this is really gross and should not be allowed in the Ukrainian armed forces. Now, would it be appropriate for other people to be like, wow, Dylan, are you playing in? I mean, you don't have to even say it, but are you saying that Ukraine's a Nazi state? I'm like, wait, no, I didn't say that. Are you saying that? Well, you're playing into it. You're playing into the Russian propaganda. Like this would be unbelievably unfair if I was to try to do that to somebody else was to do that to me, or if somebody was to try to do that to Matt Binder.
Really,
I'm not pounding on my chest of doing bravado at all.
I mean,
I'm just sitting here.
What are you talking about? On
kind of
Twitter,
in awe.
dude. On Twitter, dude. You were having this whole big thing about how I was specifically talking about Argentina when I wasn't.
The historical facts with lots of your followers who seem to believe that myth was true. And they seem to believe that, they got really offended when I pointed out that the U.S. government itself estimated that there were 10,000 Nazi war criminals in the U.S. They got really mad at that.
Oh, well, I don't know anyone who did that. I mean, I can't speak for all people who would get, but I certainly know that there are 10,000.
My problem isn't with you specifically. My problem is
10,000.
with this myth is with this stereotype in general.
Cool,
my
but
problem
I
is that I don't want people to inadvertently or whatever spread this idea. I would prefer that people base these ideas, in facts, bring them up when it's actually relevant, rather than to explain Latino neo-Nazi mass shooter in the U.S.
Ellen, you have my introduction to Amazing to Atheist set up. Do I DM you? Sure, that works with me. Perfectly fine with me. I don't know what your method is. Hope you didn't shove him in the back of a trunk. You're gonna drive him out to me in Ukraine, but yeah, appreciate it. You can DM me on Twitter and on Discord.
An expert on white supremacy.
Or email me, DylanBurnsTV@gmail.com.
Supremacists in the US, I would hope that you could explain how this guy came to be without making a reference to South America, because I think it's pretty irrelevant.
But it wasn't specifically about this guy, man. Even in the tweet I'm responding to in that screenshot, it was specifically about the rise of white supremacy within the Latino and Hispanic communities. That's simple. That's simple, dude. So people come from South America, Mexico, Central America, all over to the United States, right? That's where they immigrate from, and they come to this country, right? So it's not a thing that's there. Certainly, they're learning a lot of it here, without a doubt. This kid specifically, who did this guy, this fucking mass shooter, this white supremacist neo-Nazi shooter, he, without a doubt, based on his specific background, got this shit in the U.S. He did post a lot of photos on his social media channels, though, of Mexican white nationalists in Mexico, like literal white neo-Nazi rallies in the streets of Mexico. But again, the specific article I was replying to was someone mocking the idea of the headline of the article being that the growing white supremacy in Hispanic and Latino communities. And I quickly looked for an article, saw a headline that did not specifically specify any country, because to me, it's not a specific country's problem. Again, I told you the first country I think of in modern day would be Brazil. And so I posted a screenshot of that headline. I mean, and anything else is you reading into it. And if you...
It's not me reading into it, because our actions, are influenced by broader cultural trends, by broader cultural osmosis. We're not just we don't just have these specific intentions that we're all using. And you can also do things by accident. You can spread damaging ideas by accident without meaning to do so. Because there are these trends that I'm sure you're well aware of Americans projecting, deflecting onto other countries. For example, religious fanaticism in the US, they say, oh, are we the Taliban now? Stuff like that. Neo-Nazi mass shooter, oh, are we like Argentina now? Stuff like that. So when I see someone...
Well, that's not the point he was making. And it's not a point you can even... Can we see his original... Does anybody have his original post? If it is even possible that you could read the post like that, like, what are we, like, South Americans? I don't believe Matt Binder would say something like that. And again, not even Argentinians, just South Americans.
Like, referencing South America or Argentina or whatever, and related to, like, a neo-Nazi mass shooting in the US, what I see in that, as someone who is very familiar with these sorts of stereotypes, with these sorts of deflections, is that. And you might not have intended it, but that's how it comes off.
Okay. I mean, if that's how it came off to you, then, I mean, that's a problem.
It came off like that to me and lots of other people. Like, I know you mentioned the right-wing Argentines, but I'm sure they weren't all right-wing.
No,
I'm sure there were plenty of people in there who were just fucking sick we're just fucking sick of these Americans, like.
But I mean, this is
specifically to them. All
this conversation you're having now with me, though, is way different than the conversation you had on Twitter with me, and the conversation you had just even 10 minutes ago, and before that, the rest of the live stream, where you were just trying to claim that just bring up the fact was some sort of propaganda, imperialism for the
Nina, thank you so much for the rated 15.
United States.
You guys said this was almost over. You guys lied to me. You just wanted me to keep streaming. You scum in gutter chat. Nina said you're the reason she got banned. I'm trying to figure out who this person is in my head here. I don't know who they are, but good. It was my CIA plot the whole time. My main job is to cause as much suffering as possible. And I was given an order from up and above, even from my grandpa, William Burns, to get them banned. Very sorry. I watched a town hall because you gave me the confidence to do it. No, that was a terrible idea. No, you shouldn't have done that. You were in the same terrible boat that I was in. Yeah, no, you have learned, CNN and Warner Bros. Will scalp you alive. I thought because people were streaming it on YouTube that I would be okay. So, everybody's looking to everyone else, okay? Everyone's just looking for how the waves go.
It's not just bringing up the fact, though. It's referring to the stereotype of Argentina as like the special Nazi haven. I know it said South America, but when people think Nazis in South America, we all know what they're thinking. When Americans think it, especially, we all know what they're thinking. I know why they think that. I think I've explained well enough why they think that.
Then I mean,
if you want to just say that you didn't mean it or whatever, okay.
Well, no,
sure, but you don't need to mean it for it to nonetheless.
I mean,
be spread through the message that you sent, through the tweet that you sent.
I mean, the weirdest thing to me is, regardless, you tell me all the things wrong with the United States of America. It's horrible history. You could bring up the genocide of the Native Americans. You could bring up slavery. You could bring up how we treated African Americans, Black Americans in this country after during the Civil Rights era. You could bring up the Nazis we brought into this country. You will see nothing from me denying it. In fact, I implore more and more people to talk about it.
I'm not saying that you believe that.
Okay, but
I'm not saying that you believe that.
But I will say it is very weird, very fucking weird, that bringing up Nazis in Argentina, you don't get a discussion about it. You don't get a...
There have been discussions about it, though. There was like 20-year-long government inquiry. That's what the report...
Okay, so I guess we can't talk about Nazis. I guess we can't...
Yeah, what are we finding? What are we looking through now? Okay. It challenged you to find photos like this in Argentina. I challenge you to find photos like this in Argentina. Oh, oof, that wasn't that difficult. Yeah, you can do this in just about any country. They should have made the test harder. They should have made the test a little bit harder. It was not going to be that difficult.
Talk about Nazis in Argentina because if you were born after that 20 years...
Randomly bringing them up based on damaging cultural stereotype, which primarily exists because of imperialism, which is constantly used to legitimize imperialism.
Here's the original tweet. You don't even have to open a history book. There are history websites now. How South America became a Nazi haven. Find out how and why South America became a safe haven for thousands of former Nazi Party members and SS officers. This doesn't even mention Argentina at all. I thought like he would at least somewhere in his screenshot he would have mentioned Argentina, even if originally his point was about South America. But there's not even a mention of something. I assume in the article Argentina is brought up. But this is all from this. This is it. This is really it. Well, I mean, I'm not that surprised that Matt Bender is confused here and why this conversation is even happening.
That's different.
No,
That's
I mean,
the issue that I have.
I think it's completely fair to bring up the historical context of, yes, there is a history of Nazis and neo-Nazis and white supremacists finding safe harbor in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Peru.
I think there are better ways to do this without inadvertently spreading these sorts of damaging stereotypes. I think, for example, let's go back to the example that I used earlier. I know that you think it's not exactly the same, but I think it's a kind of similar, inadvertent, perhaps, spread of a stereotype, like an African-American politician who is corrupt and being like, oh, plenty of African countries are corrupt. You know, I think that would be pretty out of place to explain the actions of like a guy of like African descent in the USA, and it would be like referring back to damaging stereotypes about Africa.
If there was an African American president who was accused of some corruption, I agree it would be racist to bring up Africa. If there was a conversation sparked from that about how Africans cannot be corrupt, then I would without a doubt say, no, we could bring up African countries. And that's exactly the scenario that happened here. There was a Mexican-American shooter that did a horrible act. This dude, without a doubt, was inspired by Nazis and white supremacy here in the United States, and based on his social media feed, probably at the very least was looked up to that same sort of what's going on in Mexico too with neo-Nazis and white supremacists, but mostly without a doubt the United States of America. But there was a conversation that was sparked from that about Latino and Hispanic communities as a whole. And I think you would agree that if there was an equivalent where all of a sudden, after an African-American president was charged with corruption, there were articles about how, oh, African countries, they can't be corrupt. What's going on here? This is bullshit. You would think it would be fair game to then bring up that actually there is a pretty long history of African countries being led by pretty corrupt leaders. Probably some of the most corrupt in the whole world.
My example was a more relevant one, being an African American, and then referring to Africa to explain their actions.
It's not, because that's not what I did. It's like, why do you continue to avoid?
Well, you refer to South America to sort of as an explanation for how this guy can be a Latino white supremacist. I believe there are better ways to make that same point.
Okay,
for example,
then make the point in the better way. Don't critique him for things he never said.
Explaining how a Latino American can actually be a white supremacist rather than just lazily pointing to a cultural signifier that is...
Look, it's a very easy argument to make. If somebody told me, Dylan, there's no such thing as a Serbian Nazi, and then I could just say, okay, here's pictures of Serbians being Nazis. That's a very easy argument to make, because it's like, look, right there, Nazi, Serbian. Serbians can be Nazis. But if I had to sit down here and be like, well, when you look at some certain stringent Nazi ideologies that break off and are consumed by the Serbian extremist community, like, I guess I could make a much more nuanced, better academic argument, but it's a lot easier to be like, there's a picture of some Serbian Nazis, boom, there's proof that Serbians can be Nazis. Much easier. It's going to probably be more convincing for the layman anyway.
The Nazi Argentina idea.
No, it's not just to point to a lazy cultural signifier, to show that there's a long history of it, that it's not some new trend that all of a sudden, because you know what the conversation would be then. Oh, everybody's a white supremacist now.
Actually, I think the Nazis in South America, they're all white, like blonde-haired, blue-eyed. It's kind of a very different thing, really. You can't really explain like a brown Mexican descended neo-Nazi by pointing to Argentina or Brazil or
why can't you describe Argentinians that way?
Like what?
You just said you can't describe Argentinians as like your words, like a brown-skinned, darker.
No, I'm referring to Nazis, like Nazis who came from Germany, right? They were like white people. So sure. It stands to reason that them and their kids would also be white people.
I mean, they would be certainly could possibly be white, sure, but they could also have darker complexions.
Yeah, so pointing towards these German, like literal Germans who migrated to South America as like an explanation for a brown-skinned man or brown-skinned white supremacist in the United States of America, to me, it doesn't really make sense.
Why doesn't it? If you're trying to say Argentinian
because there's
people
the with racial component to right? So there's a racial contradiction there in
So
this
you're
guy's
trying to say,
ideology.
are you trying to
He
say
thinks he's
that
part
if,
of the white master race and that like Nazis would love him or something?
so are you saying that if if someone in Argentina is a descendant from a Nazi from Germany, like the guy came over from Germany, had a family with someone in Argentina, you're saying that that kid, even though he might have lighter skin and lighter complexion, you're saying they wouldn't be Latino as well, even though their mother would be an Argentine native?
I don't know. Maybe would he in the U.S.? I don't know. You guys have
I would say,
everything fucked up here.
no.
Dude, come on, can we please just wrap this up? How much longer is this debate, actually? Dude, it has to wrap up soon. I'm sorry. This has gotten completely pointless at this point. They've gotten nowhere. They've gotten nowhere in the last like 20 minutes.
What I
don't
would
think
say
it's
is
very simple.
the
If you-
fundamental contradiction, because
Ooh,
Latino
that's
is not, it's not a race.
good
The
answer.
fundamental contradiction in that guy's ideology has nothing to do with his descent from Mexico as compared to Argentina. These places are incredibly far from each other. It doesn't really make much sense to really bring it up in the first place. But we're talking about like the racial contradiction here is what those Americans were saying he can't be a Nazi referring to, because to them he's this brown guy. You're right. He's excluded from whiteness. He's excluded from white supremacy. To them, I don't think an Argentine like descendant of Nazis would be excluded from that. I don't think they would be like, oh, he's a Latino. I think they would welcome him with open arms. And that's the fundamental contradiction that they need to explain to them. They don't need like lazily pointing to like a cultural signifier of Argentina being the Nazi country.
I mean, I think it's very relevant in terms of everything we just mentioned. I mean, we're just going to disagree, I guess, agree to disagree here.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't know what to say, honestly. Is there any other point you want to make? I mean, I guess feel free. I'm happy to stay on the stream and listen to whatever else you got to say, but I don't know what else on my end. Go ahead.
No, tell Sam Cedar that he needs to tell AOC to vote no on increasing the State Department budget.
Okay, sure.
Thank you for relaying that message for me.
I'm sure he has that direct line to AOC.
Oh yeah, no problem, no question.
I mean, the weird thing is, it seems like you and I come to, at least from what you're telling me, come to an agreement on everything except the fact that you seem to not like the context.
Yeah, because
I brought up
the
this history.
disagreement isn't with our specific political views in this case. My disagreement with you is how you inadvertently spread this damaging idea that is weaponized against the, like the, not the left, but like, the compromise, like the
Adolf Eichmann just kind of popped up someday. He was like, I don't know where he went to, but like magically one day he appeared in Argentina. And the Argentines, they fought. They fought on the streets. They beat back the Nazis on their border with sticks and stones. With sticks and stones, I tell you. They said, no, we're not going to let any Nazis in our country. No Nazis here. But those scheming little rats, they were able to get through somehow, despite the due diligence of Perón's government. They're able to, oh man, they got through. And now this terrible stereotype that Argentina now has, because they decided to just take in a few hundred Nazi war criminals. Who hasn't? Who hasn't taken in a few hundred Nazi war criminals? Who in my chat right now? Post a 1 in chat if you've never taken in a Nazi war criminal. See, nobody posted a 1. Doesn't happen. Everyone's done it. A terrible stereotype. Stop posting 1s. No, nobody has never done that.
the Lula types in our country. It's used to link them with this idea of them having like a fundamentally irredeemable Nazi ideology. And that
there's no one in this country that thinks that Lula is a Nazi. In fact, he's very well liked in this country.
What I meant to say there was that in Argentina, the politicians who are linked to Nazism via this fact they identify with Peronism, they are more like Lula than like anything else that I could think to compare them with. Nonetheless, they are branded as Nazis because of this Argentina Nazi special safe haven stereotype, particularly by Americans, constantly in the American media too. And that is damaging. And I would prefer that people do not spread this stereotype, because then it can be used to hurt these politicians here who, you know, as imperfect as they are basically, you know, the lesser evil compared to the like imperialist backed neoliberals.
Okay.
And that's what I don't like.
All right. So, I mean, I don't know what else to. I mean, I guess I could say the same to you again about. Because, again, this is the same conversation that could be had with Ukraine. It really is. And it's silly to say you can't talk about the very real problem in Ukraine with neo-Nazis because it would give
I think this is also kind of different because there's not like some sort of massive Azov-like neo-Nazi militia in Argentina. There's not like a massive neo-Nazi movement in Argentina. The fascist movement in Argentina right now is just Trump-inspired. They call themselves libertarians, but they're just like Trumpists.
I think Trump.
People need to stop using Azov, I think, as the example of Ukrainian neo-Nazism. I'm going to be honest. I saw a lot more of that symbology amongst right sector guys in this country than I have amongst Azov guys, if I'm being completely honest. Azov has gotten more and more milquetoast with time. There are still 100% fascists in the organization. But honestly, I feel like a lot of people miss the much larger organization, which is right sector, which has a lot more right-wing and far-right elements. Even though the majority of its right-wing far-right elements aren't somebody you would classically call Nazis, that you might call them right-wing or far-right nationalists. That's probably going to be a much bigger problem, the more right-wing nationalist types, when it comes to domestic Ukrainian politics once this war is over, when it comes to achieving protections for Romani people, achieving protections for LGBT people. But that's a conversation that I feel is too nuanced for whatever this conversation was. Tuber Wills, thank you so much for giving YN Yorker a tier 1 sub saying purge the white names. Purge them indeed. Site chat supremacy. Site chat rules.
That's up there, man. That's white supremacy.
I mean, the ideology is imported from the USA. They're not like descendants of like the Nazis who came to Argentina. They're just like fucking losers who got told by this guy that like abolishing every single social program will make them rich.
I mean, I don't know how else to bring up the fact that it does. There is an analogous situation there, being that you keep bringing up that.
Is there anything else to this? Like, how much longer is this going to go? How much longer?
Imperial Americans used.
Go on. Let's speed it up.
That Nazis are in South America in general, but Argentina in this case, and how Russia uses that same thing to.
I think the difference here is the war and R. It's the tense.
Right now, there's a very real war going on in Argentina. The imperialism's happening right now. Excuse me, there's a war going on in Ukraine. I'm sorry, excuse me.
I believe the problem is that the Nazis that we're talking about were about 70, 60 years ago, and the Nazis in Ukraine, they're there right now. If there was like an actual German rat line linked neo-Nazi movement in Argentina right now that was like armed and dangerous and shit, and like tying Romani people to posts, I would be screaming about them. But what I'm screaming about right now is actually the US-backed Trump-inspired fascists.
You don't have to be a literally descendant of Nazi Germany to be a Nazi, buddy. I mean, come on.
Okay, but there's not like an Azov tier Nazi problem in contemporary Argentina.
No, I don't. That'd be your specialty. So I guess I'll defer to you there. I don't know about that. I mean, I would highly.
Why isn't Azov tier?
I would highly doubt there's not.
I would like to hear in detail what when we talk about the Azov tier Nazi problem. The most I could ever imagine is a white nationalist being accepted within the organization and going off and doing some type of stochastic terrorism. That is the worst thing I could imagine happening. Which, by the way, could easily happen on either sides of the contact line, considering, again, the Russians are also using neo-Nazi militias. Outside of that, I don't know what else Azov actually poses as a threat to wider society. They don't have the force to really like overthrow anything. They don't have much, if any, political power. And the most power they have seems to be, at this point, when it comes to outside of the militia in and of itself, is maybe like cultural soft power from Azovstal, but that hasn't translated into political. The military success of the organization has yet to translate into political success for the original founders' political party that kind of split off from the movement. I don't really, not really split off from the movement, but like did its own thing. So I don't know, outside of, again, the individual stochastic terrorism, I don't see the larger threat more than that Azov poses.
a massive like Azov level neo-Nazi problem in Argentina. I'd certainly appreciate you talking about it. But luckily there isn't.
Yeah. Luckily there isn't. But to act like there's no neo-Nazis in any military, it would be. I mean, that's a huge draw.
Well, luckily Argentina completely destroyed its military after the U.S.-backed Nazi-inspired dictatorship used it to murder 30,000 leftists. So that was pretty good. Now it's just a jobs program for like 2,000 losers.
All right. I mean, I guess this was an interesting conversation. Again, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I feel like we're just talking in circles now. I could see my audience and your audience sort of getting, I don't know.
No, don't worry. I think this was very clarifying.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, great talking to you, man.
Was there anything else you wanted to say?
Nope, that's all. Thanks. See ya.
All right, cool. Have a great night.
Okay.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. That was something else. Let's see what he says on the stream now, because I know he's going to talk about it.
Don't suck me in. I'm too curious. I gotta know. What did he say? What does he say on stream?
Oh my God, I need to get the Demon Mama bathroom song. I mean, you can't say it's not in bad faith when he just refused over and over again to admit that there even exists this stereotype of Argentina being like a special Nazi haven, because the issue, obviously, as I said, literally a dozen times.
Okay, no, I don't want to listen to it. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for tuning into today's stream. What a debate.